Hey, what's up guys, it's JoePCool14 here, and welcome back to our Minecraft Legacy Console Edition Let's Play Survival Series. Really happy to have you guys back here for another brand new episode here as we take a look outside of our house to see some absolutely wonderful turtles just chilling here. That's actually a lot of turtles, half a dozen turtles just out of nowhere outside of our house. Definitely need to get a turtle farm going, I suppose, don't we? Anyway, we're going to go ahead over here and just kind of take a peek at our surrounding areas. As you can see, we've still got the animal pen, which is just kind of stuck here in the middle of our area next to our little wheat farm. Not a whole lot going on here. Definitely need to look into doing something with that, and that is in fact what we're going to be looking into in this episode, as well as a couple other things which I think are going to make this world kind of start to look a little bit nicer. So what we're going to be doing actually in today's episode is we're going to be working on building ourselves a path, and we're going to be using a few different materials. We're going to be using coarse dirt, gravel, I guess dirt around the path, and then we're going to also try incorporating a bit of an unusual block, a block that I would say tends to get a bit more shunned than others, and that's granite actually, as we take a brief look here at the beautiful sunset over our porch, over the lake, over the hills in the distance. Oh, it's beautiful. I love it. Yeah, we're going to be trying to use granite, which is not something we typically see in builds. I think more recently granite has seen, I guess, more of an acceptance, but back in the day when it was added, this block was just seen as so ugly. And frankly, part of that also has to do with the original texture it was given. Not as good as the texture it currently has. So I think that has something to do with it. What we need to do first, before we really get started, is we're going to have to move this animal pen, because what I'm thinking about doing is I'm thinking about this path that's going to come from the front door of our house into this open area here, where we've got currently some tall grass. I want to fill this tall grass in, and then we're going to create a bit of a kind of courtyard area, as unfortunately, oops, I start placing coarse dirt instead of regular dirt, which won't turn into grass. I might as well take a moment here to kind of explain how this episode is coming together. So when I originally recorded this, I guess, spoiler alert, this narration you're hearing was not recorded live as the gameplay was recorded. I made a mistake and I was not recording the microphone. I didn't tick the switch on when I recorded this, and unfortunately I was recording for over an hour and I didn't notice until afterwards. I thought to myself, gee, there's only one file here and it only has video. That's not good. Unfortunately, I had to come back and do this narration over, and that's kind of why there's been a bit of a delay on this episode, because I just wasn't really sure what to do. I couldn't simply delete the episode. It wasn't kind of like a throwaway episode where I just kind of walked around. I actually built a few things, so I'm just kind of gonna come back here, and what I'm doing right now is just kind of commentating over. It's almost like a commentary track for like a TV show episode or a movie, you know, where the creator talks about what they did in the creation of the project. That's kind of what we're going to be doing here. Don't worry, I'm not going to show you the full hour. It's still going to be edited down, but just kind of, I'm going to be using like weird tenses. I might say past tense, I might say future, but hopefully you'll enjoy anyway, because I do think the builds that we worked on in this episode, they will turn out very nice, and you'll see that later on, I think. Anyway, now that you can see we've got our area all cleared up here, let's head back over to, I think, the mine. Actually, we're just checking out the Wandering Trader. Oh, he's got cactus. Oh yeah, that's right. I do remember. So there was a discussion in this episode. I ended up getting cactus from that Wandering Trader, and I remember commenting, I thought, gee, the texture on it is really strange. It came in and like it was this like green. It just looked really weird, really off green. You can kind of see it on screen there. But hey, we needed cactus. It's just one of those things that's probably broken from the old textures. So skipping ahead to where we actually start to build the path, I remember when I recorded this, I kind of tried to discuss the methodology that I used, and what I kind of did with the path is I started with the center line, and then I would go diagonal over, kind of like that. You can see where it's not like block over block. It's like there's a diagonal. They're not touching each other except on the corner. And I decided to do that through the center, and then I would just kind of make it a little bit meandering. And then basically when you come back later, that's when you kind of surround it more. And this technique I did not come up with. This was actually, I watched a video from a YouTuber called, I think his name is Blue Nerd. I might have to verify that. I funnily enough, I didn't remember when I made the video. I suppose I could quickly search it. Yeah, it's from a channel called Blue Nerd MC, and he does a really pretty nice building tutorials, although it looks like lately he's been doing hardcore, but he has a lot of interesting building tutorials from over the month. So I highly recommend taking a look at that if you like some high quality builds. So I kind of continue to cut this back, and then I do end up getting the full pattern of the path, but it does need some work. It's kind of just weird. And then I also tried trapping a turtle in my house. That didn't work, as you can imagine. We end up managing to trap a chicken, which is super useful, although just one. We do some more trimming on the farm, and then finally we're able to kind of get the path going back past the house. And now we decide to cut along the edges beyond the path, and it's kind of like you want to surround it, but this time you do want to connect the diagonals. That kind of gives it that fuller look. I guess it makes the pathway wider, and we're gonna make this pathway 3 wide. So we did the center, and then we're gonna do one on each side, and that'll kind of give us our 3 wide path. And you know, if we think it's too narrow, easy, you just add another line on one of the sides. It doesn't have to be perfectly symmetrical, it's just how you want it to look. And again, I really think this tutorial video that I watched is really good, because I've always kind of I've seen people build these curved paths, right? And it doesn't seem that difficult, but there's a finesse in the strategy to kind of making the curves look organic and making it feel like a consistent width throughout when you do these curvy paths. And his video just did a really good job of doing that, and I just thought it was really cool, and I wanted to use it. And now is when we actually get to start placing the blocks. So we actually are going to go with a 3 block palette choice here, and I think I was wrong what I said earlier. I said we were going to use gravel. Well, actually we're going to be using cobblestone, and if I remember correctly, I think I went with cobblestone because cobblestone is just easier to obtain. I mean, gravel's not exactly a rare block, but it's not quite as universal as cobblestone is, and I already needed gravel for coarse dirt, so I think it just made sense kind of divvy it up. And yes, coarse dirt and granite, not polished but unpolished granite, were the other 2 blocks that we went with. And even though using that unpolished granite might sound bad, I think you'll find when we finished it actually turned out pretty well. So there it is with all the cobblestone done, and now we can go ahead and do our next layer, which is the granite. And the granite, I definitely wanted to be as sparsely placed as possible. It has a very different color to the dirt and the cobble, so you really don't want to overuse it. And finally, now we can come in and just fill in the rest with coarse dirt and make any minor adjustments as necessary. So yeah, there's the finished pathway, and I think it looks really nice. Of course, there's a lot of work to be done still. It just looks like a flat path through some grass, but it's a really good start and gives the area a nice rustic feeling, but also civilized, a rustically civilized, or a civilized rustic appearance, whatever we want to call it. But I think it looks pretty nice. Next step is actually to start building our little courtyard area. So this is where we're kind of going to be treating as the center hub of our village, our base, establishment. I haven't really come up with a name for it yet, I don't think. But we're going to use this flat area in between all the biomes and the lakes, and we're going to just create ourselves a little center of town with a nice fountain in the middle. Of course, first we got to clear out some more area because there's never enough area being used. We try to work on making a circle, which, well, that went about as well as you can imagine. I'm marking off the center here and just kind of clearing out the rest of it. And in my head, I'm thinking, while I'm doing this, I'm thinking about how I actually want to lay out the blocks here. And we're going to be using a similar palette to what we did with the existing path, and that path is probably going to be the design used in a lot of our builds. So I decided to go ahead and use some andesite as a ring around the edge, polished this time because we're trying to actually create a border, and that looks much better, and I think this looks really good. And now is where things get interesting. What do I do with the granite? I actually decided to polish it now. So kind of mixes it up a little bit from what I was talking about earlier. And we even used some stone brick, and we decided to just kind of create a path kind of towards the center, and then on each side, and then the quote-unquote corners of the circle, that's where the andesite, I keep calling it andesite, that's where the polished granite is going to come into play. So there you can see with the stone brick in the middle, the andesite on the outside, and then the insides, well, we do decide to make a little extension. The insides of what's left, that's going to be your polished andesite as basically another accent block around there. And I think it looks really nice. I think it looks really clean. And yes, it does, of course, continue to tie in with our theme. But we still have to do the fountain, and that's going to require doing some changes and incorporating our smooth stone slabs. And these blocks, you know, they're just classic blocks. They've been around forever, and they're just a timeless design. I don't know what to say. They're just so clean. They're so versatile. There's so many different ways you can use them. Now is where the tricky part, though, is just kind of coming up with the shape of the fountain. I do struggle with this, but I feel like I kind of set myself up a bit for failure with how much, or I should say how little room I gave myself. And then I accidentally placed a stone slab, and I said, you know what? That actually looks kind of good. That changed the water, and it actually made it look kind of nice. So it was a bit of an accidental success. I ended up placing those slabs around all four sides, and I think it kind of made it look nice. Anyway, some more trimming, some more refining on the andesite. I kind of cut it back a little bit just to give it more room. And finally, I wanted to create something for the border of the area, and this is where I decided to use some spruce fences, because, you know, you got to have some wood in there, right? Otherwise, it's just all stone. And again, this is where I had to do some tweaking. I couldn't quite decide what I liked about it. I couldn't decide, you know, the design. As I think I talked about in the original recording, and I've discussed it in other videos, I think. I'm very detail oriented with these small builds. I tend to prefer spending time really perfecting these small builds rather than building mega structures. Now, I probably should get better at mega structures, because sometimes you just need to build a mega structure. There's just times where small builds don't cut it, but definitely in this early survival game play, I'm not gonna I think what we're doing with these small builds is appropriate, but I think this is a really good palette we got going on here. I think it really ties the area together well. I decided to add a little bit of flourish with some kind of borders, or at least test the idea out, or then I test the idea about where to put it. And I used these stripped spruce logs, which, as a fun fact, I think this was the first update, 1.14, to have those. 1.14 was a really important update when it came to building. There were so many little blocks added. I mean, all the different fences, or all the different walls, all the different slabs and stairs. So things are looking pretty well together so far. Now we just have to resolve a few things like lighting, and that's where I decided to try doing some jack-o'-lanterns. Now, I could have used regular lanterns, but I wanted to put them underwater, or at least try to put them underwater. And that's what I tried to do, and the results weren't great. Unfortunately, the way the lighting engine just kind of handles it, it really doesn't handle it very well. I decided to try and put a jack-o'-lantern in the middle, and it looks kind of silly, and it would look better if it was like a piece of glowstone, for instance. But in the end, we do end up deciding to just go with some actual lanterns, because I think that's really the only realistic choice we have at the moment. It would be really nice to get sea lanterns. You know, this is still pretty early, I would say, when light blocks were just not really, well, there just wasn't a ton of options for them. We don't even have the blue fires, you know, the soul fire, soul lanterns, all those things. So options were still pretty limited for lighting, but we have lanterns and sea lanterns, so you know what, that's good enough for me, at least for now. And of course we have the classic redstone lamps. Those things look wonderful. Those are timeless. Finally, some flower pots. Of course, how could I build something without using flower pots? And a surprise visit from a creeper as well. Some spruce saplings around the base of the fountain, as well as some flowers around the edges, and a hello from a donkey. And just a final touch, some berry bushes around the outside. And with that, we have finished our build. We have finished our town square fountain, or maybe we should just call it our fountain. I don't know. I haven't really come up with a name for it. If anyone has any ideas, please let me know. And I think this is going to be a really nice hub where we can start building in each of the 4 directions and really just start to create an area with nice builds that tie together well and complement each other and use similar palettes, kind of similar style, I think. That is going to actually wrap it up for this episode. I'm sorry, I know this was a little bit of a weird one, but I think I try to do my best here, at least kind of make you feel like you were there, make me feel like I was there. I think in the end, I mean, we still built something really nice, and I think that's what's important. So anyways, guys, can't wait to see you in the next one. This is JoePinkle14 signing out, and remember everybody, play Minecraft, eat bacon. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next episode.